Alex Bowen, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. I'm just excited to have a conversation.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. We got an exciting Olympic special episode today. We got a big event coming up for you pretty soon in Paris.
Oh yeah. Super excited. Going for number three, third Olympics, and just super excited to be heading to Paris. And yeah, we're super excited. We got a great team.
Dude, well, I'm stoked to dive into that. We're going to get into how Paris is looking, how the team's looking. But certainly we're going to talk about your career and how you got to where you are today. I'm going to first give a little bit of context just about us because we have some pretty small world overlap here. We've recently reconnected. But yeah, so we played against each other in college. We were the same year. You were at Stanford. I was at Santa Clara.
Yeah, just down the freeway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think, did your dad play at Stanford too?
No, he's just been a coach. He played at Granite Hills in San Diego, and then he went to University of Arizona and played for the club team there.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
but he coaches.
Yes, still coaches.
Okay,
still coaching for the Shores 16 and under team, the high school, and like the ODP zone team from San Diego.
Nice. So very involved.
Very involved.
Yeah. I have a feeling I'm gonna get right into that of how you got started with water polo. But
of course, yeah.
Yeah, the Stanford program was always something I looked up to because my dad played there.
Yeah.
And so it was just from an early age I was introduced to water polo. I would pass the ball with my dad at age 5, and I have a feeling you might have a similar story.
Very, very similar. Grew up basically on the pool deck. My dad would pick me up from school, take me to the pool deck, sit me in the office, finish your homework, and then you can come out. And then I would run around the pool deck, shag balls, and throw them back in the water. And then by the time I was old enough, I'd be swimming in the shallow end, and while the varsity was training, and yeah, throwing a ball around and just having fun.
Yeah. So did you know at that age then, like before you could even remember that you were going to play water polo?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it was just an inevitability to play it. But it was something that I did initially to be close with my dad. And I mean, I was always there anyways, might as well get in the pool. But yeah, like I remember my first game, my dad like came to me at the house and it's like, hey, got a couple guys are sick. We need somebody to come play 14s. This like game, like we would have games of Valhalla all the time, like the Tuesday or Wednesday league. And my dad's like, oh yeah, we're missing kids. We need somebody to come. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm like 7 years old. Like, oh, let's go. Like obviously super small for a 14 under tournament, or it wasn't even a tournament. It was just like a weekly league, but just had to fill in. And I remember my first sprint, and like, I'm not a sprinter now, but, lined me up for like the fourth quarter to sprint. And, I like swimming. Like I look up and I see the referee, like, look to both sides, take a big step my way, and like basically give me the ball. But I was like, I won it. Like, I was super stoked at the time.
That's funny. So you were playing with the big boys, basically.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
I mean, that trend kind of continued on. And
right.
I mean, at the time, like 12 and unders wasn't really, there wasn't a lot of 12 and under water polo. So, or 10 and under water polo at the time either.
Right.
Like now, the organization's so much better. Like they've really been able to build out the younger ages for water polo, and especially with the introduction of splash ball and everything, that's been great. Like that's a major advancement. It's just something that wasn't around when I was that age. But so like when I went to JO's Junior Olympics when I was 9, playing in 12 and unders, and I mean we weren't very good because half our team was 9 years old playing against 12-year-olds. And we had a couple guys that we had like 3 guys who were 12, and then a couple guys who were 11. And then everybody else, like the whole second part of the team was like half the team were 9-year-olds. And like that first year we were in LA, and then we went to Florida for when I was 9 turning 10. So then next year turning 11, the JO's in Florida, and there was like 13 teams in the 12 and under league.
Yeah.
In the 12 and under division, like total. And then we come back, and we had 2005 JO's was in San Jose, and that team that had gone 3 straight JOs basically together, growing up together, and we won JOs like when I was 12.
Wow.
So that was, I mean, that's interesting. It was great seeing. I saw a bunch of them recently. They all came out for the game in San Diego.
Uh-huh.
So guys I hadn't seen in a while showed up, and it was really cool to see them again.
Yeah. Yeah, man, there's something to be said for getting that experience playing against the older players and constantly being challenged like that. That was one thing I remember from my experience of, especially when I was young and I'd come and train with the Coronado High School team during the summer because I grew up in Hawaii. That was how I credit that experience to getting good at
100%. 100%. And that was, I mean, like even like all the games we'd play up.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't any 12 and under tournaments. So we'd go and play in the 14 and under tournaments, and like anything that was like when I was 14, we played in the 16 and under tournaments because it was just like I got used to having to play against guys who were bigger than me and being able to outmaneuver them and and eventually when I got big enough to wrestle against guys who were older than me and having to figure that out, you know, it's there's that, it really helps with that learning curve.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. So when did you realize you were ahead of everyone else around you as far as your skills in water polo?
I mean, I really don't think I did until I started making national team. I remember thinking that I remember like that year that I won JOs. I remember on the car ride back, because we drove up to San Jose and we had like that 8-hour drive back. I remember like grabbing a scrap piece of paper and like all the teams that I played against and writing out who I thought was on the national team, who would be the national team for 12 and unders.
Oh, wow.
But like, obviously it's 12 and unders.
Sure.
All like, it didn't mean anything, but it was like all the guys I played against, it's like, oh, this guy was really good. This guy was really good. And I remember just like putting together a team that way, you know?
But that shows your excitement and passion for the sport.
Oh yeah. Time. No, I mean, I was on the team, but I wasn't like, I never thought of myself as like, oh, I'm the guy on this team. Right. It was just like, these are all the best guys that would be really cool to play with as a national team. And no, it's like, but that was like 12, and so many things changed from 12 to 14, 14 to 16, 16 to 18.
Sure.
And like, there was a whole, like, I changed positions a couple times. I went from starting as a center to playing the outside, and then junior team when I was 17, 18, I went back to being a center because of it's a weird story about how that happened, but and then back to the left side a little bit in high school, and then when I went to college I started playing right side, and that's where I've been for the rest of since I was 18 or since I turned 18. I was right side attacker, and then from then on only right side because I made the position my own.
Just explain what that means. So like you're right-hander, right?
Yes, right-handed. So usually what happens with water polo, just for geometry angles, usually the best right-handed shooters play on the left side because you have a better angle to the goal, better shooter with a better angle. You want to produce more goals, right? And I'm a right side attacker on the right side. So my angle isn't quite as good, but I do a good job at it. I do an exceptional job at it. This is my position. I think I've done a really good job of figuring out how to really score from that position. And there's not a lot of guys who do that even internationally. A lot of the time, right-handed players on the right side are more of a quarterback role, assist role. And while I still do that, and I still take great pride in passing well and getting the ball into center and everything, my people look at me for goals.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that is a big part of your reputation today of being a really good shooter. And I mean, were you the high scorer at Tokyo?
I was for the team.
For the team. Yep.
And then the next World Championships, I ended up being the leading scorer for the whole tournament.
Wow.
Which is the first time a man has done it. A male has done it. The women are so much better than everyone else. They've won the last 3 gold medals. Obviously, they have a different challenge this time to try and get their 4th gold medal in a row. But they've been like, you see the finals for each Olympics or World Championships, and they've won most of those by 4 or 5 goals. Like they're phenomenal. And they've had people the women have had best goal scorer for the women's side, but I was
for sure
lucky enough to be the first male to do it.
Yeah, that's
for
awesome.
the U.S. So I was, personal achievement, but still doesn't mean anything without the team achievement.
Yeah, where you're going to be looking at some hard defense in Paris coming up.
Oh yeah,
but we'll get to that. But I want to talk about college because in water polo, where you play at college is such a big deal because the professional opportunities are very limited, right? Like if you're an Olympian, if you're on the national team, then you'll probably play professionally in Europe, which is what you've done. And we'll get to that next. But just to go in order, what was your college selection process like? You obviously ended up at Stanford, but where were your top places and how did you come to pick Stanford?
Oh, it was always Stanford. I remember, well, another memory was just I going into high school, the like counselor or whatever was like, what college do you think you want to go to? And it's like, oh, I want to go to Stanford. And she looks at me, it's like, wow, that's going to be really tough. Like you're going to have to do a lot of stuff. I'm like, I know, like I'm well aware there's a high academic bar to reach. And yeah, but it was Stanford day one. And I remember even earlier telling my grandmother that I was going to go to Stanford. Just because like at that point it was like, cause the most amount of Olympians go to Stanford. And because they had Tony and Lane Bobian and Hudnut and Peter Virales. Like they had so many guys on the women's side too. Like so many just total Olympians. And I was, if I want to be an Olympian, I got to go to Stanford. Yeah. And that was like the 12-year-old brain of like, oh yeah, this means this.
So you were thinking Stanford back at age 12.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, and everything was kind of designed that way, and not designed, but kind of in that
manifested.
Yeah,
yeah. And so you came in. What was freshman year like? You obviously were an impact to the team right away.
Yeah, yeah.
Did the whole team expect that from you coming in? Because
no. Well, I mean, there was some conversations that needed to be had because we had some really good players on the left side. And that was where that's what I was doing in high school. Like high school, I was mostly playing left side. I picked up some defender. I picked up some center, but I was playing defender because I was the biggest guy. And I was playing center because we needed a second center to roll in and play a couple times. And with the junior team, I was playing center. And that all happened because there was we were in an ODP camp and our center gets his nose broken. So I roll into center because I'm I'm the next biggest guy.
Right.
So I go play center and the national team, they're not the national team coach, but the ODP director walks in and after my coach kind of like, oh yeah, we're out of any, like we want, like he's kind of like pointing at me to try and take it to that next level.
Yeah. And
he sees me play center. So he writes me down as a center. And then I go to my first junior team camp and I'm a 93 and it's for 91s. So I'm 2 years younger than everybody else. Like most of the guys who are there and I'm written down as a center. I was like, oh, I go to the coach and it's like, oh, you think you're better than this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. I was like, no. It's like, if you want to make this team, you got to be a center. I'm like,
wow.
Okay. So I made the team as a center. And
this was junior team.
This was junior team. Yeah. This is when I was going into my senior year of high school.
Okay. So you already were having national team experience in high school.
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, junior team. So at the time it was, like it was under 19, then it was under 21. So when I made it was under 20. It was just 91. The 91 was the age. Born in 91 was the age limit. Yeah. And for me, it was like I'm 93, so again 2 years younger. Made the team as a center, and I was recruited by other colleges as a center. But Stanford was the only team that looked at me outside, like saw me play. Everybody else like, oh, you're you're on the national team as a center, you must be a center. And
Yeah.
like Stanford came to see me play. John Vargas and John Renea came to see me play. It's like, oh yeah, you're not center. You do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So when I got to college, it was like we had good centers. We had a really good left side. So those are the positions that I had played previously. And we didn't really have a strong right side. We had two guys who were older, but really there wasn't really a third player on the right side. So, but there was like four guys waiting in line on the left side because we had.
Were they lefties at all?
Oh, no, I mean, no, we didn't have any lefties. Didn't play with any lefties at Stanford.
Wow.
Unfortunately. But yeah, like the left side, we had Jacob Smith, Jesse's younger brother. We had Paul Rudolph, who was on the junior team with me. We had Peter Sefton, another San Diego guy, played at La Jolla. And we had Ian Gamble, who was like one of the last guys cut from that junior team. And so it's like, okay, do I jump in ahead of those guys, or there's an opening on the right side? So I started on the right side, or I started playing on the right side. And I think my second tournament, I started doing really well, figuring it out, finding my position, finding my spots, and scoring goals. So
yeah,
I was like, oh, you did really well there. Next guy's up. The next year, recruits, we had Brett Bonani, who went to the Olympics with me in Rio. And BJ Churnside, who was also great left side player for Stanford as well. So it was like, okay, do we move them over to the right side, or I've kind of already adjusted, so keep me on the right side. So and that's what it turned into. So I stayed on the right side for the rest of my career.
Man, that's cool. So you developed that identity when you were at Stanford.
Yeah.
And did things get consistently better as far as your presence in the sport and the NCAA and the national team throughout your 4 years at Stanford?
Yeah, no, I mean, there was hurdles that I had to, there were definitely hurdles that I had to adjust to and figure out. Like I remember coming back, it's like, oh, well, I need to figure out something to do this. Like, and then everybody adjusted to that. It's like, okay, now I need to do this. And like, there's steps that you need to take when doors close, you got to figure out where the window's opening to go the other way. So there was always a constant evolution of the how I would shoot and how I would perceive the game and how I would open things up for myself and my teammates.
Right. And yeah. And I mean, did you feel yourself improve at a consistent rate though throughout that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the time there wasn't really anybody in the US that was doing what I was doing on the right side as a righty. Like there's a lot of guys that again, like were great quarterbacks and really were great passers and were reading the game really, really well. And the shooters for the US that would play the right side, I mean, you had Peter Vallis, who was left-handed, so it was more of like I would try and learn how he was reading the game. There's Adam Wright, who was playing the right side, who was reading the game really well. And the guys who would go over there and shoot were more left side guys finding themselves on the right side and doing that. And I feel like I've definitely specialized in that position and really figured out a little bit more specifics about how I'm shooting on that side.
Yeah.
And I think that's contributed to my success, but it's been a lot of it I had to figure out. And there wasn't a lot to steal from other people, like a lot of it was self-generated. And when I did get to a point and was exposed to the larger European game, there was other people who were in similar situations. I'm like, oh, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal that. And no, that's honestly how I perceive the game is you have to steal from everybody. You figure out things. You got to figure out how to steal it and make it your own.
For sure.
And that's a super important thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially once you get exposure to the different styles of play across the world. Yeah. So when did you make the senior team?
I started 2012, end of 2012. So after the Olympics in London, a lot of guys retired. And again, another memory, I had to draw a picture of my dream, and I drew a picture of me in the Rio Olympics.
Wow! Right after London.
No, this was 2010.
Wow. So in high school.
This is in high school. This was my sophomore year in high school. So it was 2000. That was 2011. So
Wow.
like I was just doing math. Like it was like, okay, you got these guys who are all probably going to retire after 2012 because it was just an age thing, like they weren't going to stick around. They weren't sticking around until like 38, 40.
Right.
And I saw like, this is a possibility. Like it wasn't something that's like, I'm going to do it. It was always like, I could. I'm going to put myself in the best position.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rule it out, but it's what I want.
Yep.
And it turned out we had a new coach came in the first day Dan didn't start until May of 2013. So Dan, the current coach, Dan Udovicic. But we had a tournament in February of 2013 to qualify for World Championships. And it was kind of an amalgamation of teams. Jovan Vavic was the coach of the team, and he had guys who could come back, who couldn't. So it was a mishmash of some college guys who could go over, some national guys who were playing abroad that could come back and play in this tournament. And it was all put together in like a month, and it was all like all the college coaches were like, well, there's this guy, and and then just thrown together, you know.
Sure.
And
yeah,
I mean, we just had to take second in the tournament, which we just had to get like 2 wins, and that's what we did.
Yeah, I mean, just having the opportunities open up when people shuffle through, when the different generations, that's such a big part of it. But tell us about this. You said you drew a picture.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I drew a picture of me like shooting a ball, and then wrote Rio in the background. Like
was it like a big deal, or did you just do it casually, like in class somewhere?
Oh no, it was like an assignment. It was like,
wow.
draw your dream, and it was like, oh yeah, cool. It was like the first. It was like the first page of the notebook, and the teacher wanted you to look at like always looking at your dream, the first picture of it. So like I don't think I have it anymore, but it was just something that I did, and like that was something that I remember.
That's sick, man. That's a cool story. I mean, the way you manifested Stanford from such a young age, and then Rio.
I mean,
when you were in high school.
I'm just trying to put myself in the best position.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the most impressive things when you can state something in some way and then follow through with it years later and put all that work in. So I want to hear about that experience you had when you made your first Olympic team. Mm-hmm. So you made the senior national team when you were, midway through college or so.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, so I made it after my freshman year, started doing national team. Dan comes in May of 2023 or 2013, sorry. And everybody comes back. So he has a lineup of 50 guys at the first practice, and he cuts half of them right away because it's like, okay, you're too old. I can't. And I mean, like I always refer to it as a massacre because it's like all these guys that I like just played college with, like, oh no, and it was just, it was eye opening, and because I remember meeting him because we had another tournament, like World League Super Final, or no, I guess it would be like our World League qualifier to go to World League Super Final. And we had to play against Brazil and Canada didn't even send a real team. Mm-hmm. I think they sent their like junior team or something. So, and that was another just amalgamation of a team. And Dan is there before he's like officially signed on and everything, before he's actually started. So he's just watching us. And I remember talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, you're good. Like we're looking forward to build the future." And it's like, "Oh, great. Yeah. Super excited. Like let's go." But, and then it was like became real, like a week later when just everybody's gone. It's like, oh, okay, this is it. This is where we're going. This is where we're starting. And first trip we go to Russia for World League Super Final. And I think we end up taking like 5th or something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and between that and the Olympics, like 2013, we had World Championships in Barcelona. So that was my first like major, I guess World League Super Final counts, but that was my first World Championships was in Barcelona. So that's kind of cool that I'm going back there now 12 years later
Yeah.
or 11 years later. And then from there, 2014, 2015, graduate, and probably had a pretty big down year in 2015, just like finishing school, because with all the training and everything, I was a little bit behind on classes.
Sure.
And like rushing at the very end of my senior year, where my senior spring, where everybody's like, oh yeah, I got like 2 classes. Like, no, I got like 5 classes I need to finish.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't pretty. So, 2015, I kind of came in a little out of shape and had to like, I had coaches come to me after 2016, after the Olympics, and saying like, you were pretty close to being cut in 2015.
Wow.
Like, I don't blame you. There's things I had to do. I had to graduate, and
Yeah.
like, I can't blame you. I can't blame the timing for that. And it was just tough. Like,
Yeah.
but
Gosh, yeah, that must have been tough. That's a whole nother angle.
oh yeah,
It's just having graduating from, not just some college, but
Yeah.
Stanford, where it's rigorous academically.
oh yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, so then that led me into my first year internationally, and I went to Romania. I went to Steaua Bucharest for my first contract.
Okay.
But
And so
only-
this was after the Olympics.
No, this is before the Olympics. So I graduated 2015, spring of 2015. So going into 2016, I have my first opportunity to go play abroad, and
Gotcha.
I had a connection to go there. Was told it was going to be Champions League. We were going to play Champions League. We were going to play Euro Cup, and I get there, and they like, oh, we're not doing that. I'm like,
Oh, man.
what's the point then? So we only played the Romanian league, and ended up only staying half the season because the schedule changed for internationally, and we had the Romanian like playoffs would have been at the same time as our World League Super Final qualifier, our World League qualifier that we were hosting in Newport. So it's like, okay, well, I have to go back for this. And so I ended up leaving a lot earlier, just because like there's like do you guys want me to stay and up until the Olympics? But you guys we're already qualified like right now we're number 1, so no matter what, you're going to be in a good position. So, and they let me off the first contract afterwards. It just kind of like mutually agreed to part ways. But we had 4 foreigners. We could only play 3, so I wasn't playing every game either. But it did get me in better shape, and so I came back to the national team in good shape, and I had a decent World League leading up to the Olympics, and then Rio. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your professional career over the years, I mean, you've played. You started in Romania. You played at other countries. You played in Hungary, right? Croatia, Serbia, Greece, France, and then Spain is coming up.
And Croatia, yeah. So I'm going into my 10th season abroad, and I've played in 7 different countries.
Man, that's
so.
So my question, especially in that first experience in Romania, coming out of your college career and then training with the national team where you got international experience over the years, what did playing professionally do to your game? What impact did that have on it? Was there any difference?
Tremendous. I mean, it really helps when you have a good coach abroad. My first experience, like there's a lot of this stuff, again, I had to figure out on my own, but my first experience in Hungary, second experience in Hungary was, I was there for 3 years and going up against some of the best players in the world, because the Hungarian league at that time was just top notch.
Yeah.
Nails hard for every position. We ended up taking 5th my first year, and the team wasn't expecting it, but I had a really good relationship with the center, and we had a really good combination for the offense. And then defensively, we had a really good goalie who like careered while I was there, and ended up getting a little bit a nod for an invite for the national team after, when he wasn't really even close for it before that. Like
American?
No, he was a Hungarian guy.
Okay.
So Hungarian national team, but either way, just for him, like
Big deal though. Yeah.
for him, yeah, big deal for him. And we came out of nowhere before I was there. I think they were 10th, and they were just like, I had my bonus tied to top 8.
Oh, cool.
And we're definitely top 8, like after the first, like after a certain point. And he's like, oh, great. Now we got to get your other bonus at 5th place. And it's like, I don't have a bonus for 5th. And he's like, you don't? Oh, I was like rushed into his office and wrote another like addendum to the contract.
Wow.
And, yeah, it was great. So because 5th, so the thing with 5th place that was the introduction for Euro Cup. Where it was like the last spot for Euro Cup.
Yeah,
which is huge. Like, having that competition is having the full European competition is, I mean, a lot better. It helps with the club sponsors and all that kind of stuff as well.
Sure.
So, the excitement that I had for 5th place that first year, which I was the only at that time, 2016-2017 season, I was the only American abroad. I was on the national team. I was the only American on the national team abroad because
really,
Tony went, or in Europe, I mean, because Jesse took that year off. Merrill retired. Tony it was his last season. He played a season in Brazil. And like John Mann retired. So like all the older guys had retired and everybody else was still in college.
Yeah.
So it was like, I was out there alone to come back to the national team. It's like, yeah, we got 5th place. And it's like, why are you happy about that? It's like, you don't understand. That's actually a big deal. Yeah. Like there's a reason to be happy about 5th place. Yeah. And for there at least. And it was, the team was a big underdog, and being able to get that far was huge.
Yeah.
So, because the top 4 at that time was Solnock, who I think won Champions League when I was there. I think that was my first year, that 2016-2017. It might have been 2017-2018. But Solnock was like they won Champions League. They had, and then Eger, who was top competitor. Yep. You had OSC, who had just like started building up again, and then you had Ferencváros, who was like, that first year was they were good. That second year they spent a bunch of money, brought Dennis Varga, and like they had everybody on the team at that point. And but they were still in Euro Cup, so they just destroyed Euro Cup that year. And because they were a Champions League team in Euro Cup, like they just weren't allowed to be in Euro Cup because of the previous year. Well, like, because it's all based on last year's rankings. So, and then the next year they go to the Champions League and they do really well. Yeah. So it was the level of competition there was great. And then after I left, they changed the foreigner limit. They wanted to boost the Hungarian players, and they did. Like, Hungary's been successful in the last. They won in Tokyo. So they won World Championships in Tokyo, and they had a really they went to Euro Cup, or not Euro Cup. They had European Championships right beforehand. They ended up playing with a younger team, or they brought a younger team to the European Championships last year and did really, really well. Or this year, they did it this year. Yeah. Like in January. Yeah. And they ended up doing really well. They took 4th, and they had a big upset with Serbia in the quarterfinal round, and with a group of younger players. Yeah. So it helped them, but also just like from the foreigner perspective, it's like, oh yeah, well, we wanted to play, like, right, play in there. Yeah. But
for you personally, though, like the impact of playing professionally, and I'm mostly interested in the style of play difference and the impact on you physically and mentally from the American style of water polo training versus their European style.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's there's a different style for every country too. Right. Like there's the European style versus the American style, where the American style where we train like animals. We're faster, stronger, and everybody who I've talked to, like, they have the same experience when they talk to their teammates, and it's always like, yeah, the Americans are all, like, every American, great swimmer, great in the weight room, great like in this scenario, but we do have some deficiencies that the European game is more geared towards. And that is like, when we go and play abroad, like, that's what we're adjusting for, and that's what we're learning, because while the college system is good, I mean, we've had it's every American Olympian had played in college, but there have been a bunch of European players who have come to the U.S., played in college, and then have returned to their countries and played in the Olympics.
Sure.
And you have like Kostas Giannoulias for Greece, who's a great player. Kicked my ass a couple times in college, but played for USC, and now he's playing for Olympiacos, and I think he just signed his like 10th year there.
Wow!
So he's a great player.
Yeah.
And then you have Balázs Erdei, he played for the University of Pacific and did really well for them. Was also I think pretty sure he won the Catino my junior year.
Right. Yep.
And he went back and played in the Olympics in Rio, I think Tokyo too, for the Hungarian team.
Yeah.
And incredibly talented player.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really good. So you've got those two as the proof, and you've got Papa Nicolau, who just came out of his Catino Award winning season, which I think he's gotten 3 in a row. And he's trying to make the Greek team, and they do have 2 really good centers already. So we'll see if he makes it.
Yeah.
I have no idea if he has or not, but this last year he's started training with them and he was in their top 15 for the last World Championships.
Yeah. And so just for the listeners, Coutinho Award is the player of the year for college.
Yes.
In water polo.
The Heisman of water polo.
Exactly.
Peter Coutinho.
Yeah.
Great player, great coach.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. Gosh, it's so fun hearing all these names because it takes me back to those days. And I actually almost went to UOP and was going to be on Balázs's team.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember they hosted me for that recruiting visit.
Oh, yeah.
In Stockton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Heard great things about the UOP recruiting visits.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, but yeah, they do a good job over there, and they're going to be really competitive this next year because they have a bunch of the Canadian team coming back because they all took this year off to try and qualify through Pan Ams.
Yeah.
So now they're going to be back, and I think they're bringing back like 3 or 4 of their best players. So
man,
UOP is going to be strong next year.
Yeah. I want to understand a little bit more because this podcast is geared towards an entrepreneurial focus.
Mm-hmm.
But there is like a emphasis on sports. And I've had a few pro athletes on here and people in the health, fitness, wellness, athletic space.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to ask, how would you describe the way professional water polo works when you're getting opportunities to go for teams? Like you look at, let's just say the NBA or the NFL, there's a draft, right?
Yeah. Could
you tell us a little bit about how relationships work to get you an opportunity to go to a team in some specific country?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's more like soccer.
Okay.
It's very much more. It's a lot more like soccer than anything else because you have these teams who have youth programs that fill out most of their roster, and then they bring in foreign players from other places, and there's not really a free agent. They're like everything's a free agent market.
Yeah.
So you're talking with this club, you're talking with this club, you're pitting offers against each other, but the offers aren't usually as big as NBA.
Sure.
So there's not really a room for an agent to come in on it, but it's also, they really don't know anything more than you do. So because there's not really a water polo agent that knows everything.
Sure.
So a lot of it's set up through national team coaches and that kind of stuff. So like I went to Serbia because Dan's from Serbia and he helped me with the connection there. I went to Croatia because Dan really knows the coaches there and knows the whole layout. So a lot of it was like they come to our coach to try and like, oh, is this guy available? Is this guy available? It's like, yeah, he for this price, like we'll see. Like, and he's helping us get to places and using his connections to get us places, which is awesome. And the other way is when they approach you is when you're playing well for the national team. Like, oh, okay, great. We can use you on this in this role for this team. And so it's a lot of there's less middlemen because there's no room for the middlemen.
Sure. It's just very word of mouth and relationship based.
Oh, 100%.
Yep. That's good way to describe it. And how about the selection process for the Olympic team? because you kind of alluded to that story about making your first Olympics in Rio. You were having a catch up year on your last year at Stanford because you were training and you had to catch up on classes. It was hard, and they mentioned you almost got cut, but you didn't. You made the team. I just want to revisit that. What was that feeling like when you made that first Olympic team? You fulfilled that dream of going to Rio.
Oh, it was an incredible relief. I mean, it was. I thought my head was on the chopping block, obviously, but it was. I don't think my name came up for it. I think I was probably one of the last guys chosen for Rio, but I had a couple, like my 2014 year was good. Like I did well, and I think they knew that I had the talent to do something, and I was just a little bit behind on the 2015 year. I fell a little bit behind because of classes and everything.
Sure.
So they did have that. I believe that they had that belief in me moving forward. But it obviously was a relief, and there was some surprises in the 2016 team, and then 2020 it came down to 2 guys and 2 or 3 guys that were on the team or not on the team, and then this year it was the same thing. We announced the team a couple weeks back, and again it came down to 2 or 3 guys going for 1 spot.
Wow. And how many guys typically are on the U.S. national team?
So we have 13 are going to Paris.
Yep. So the Olympic team's 13 guys, and then for the national team, how many more? I guess alternates.
So we have an alternate and a second alternate.
Okay.
We have the alternate traveling with us for our trip before Paris, just in case,
Yep. Right.
But yeah, so he's there. He's not coming to Paris, but if something happens, he can. Well, I assume fly him out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've had 15 for this training camp, and while we've been training this summer, and beyond that, it's usually we'll take 15 most places we go, and but that number rises to, if you include all the young guys that we have on the team, to kind of as a look for the future, 20, 21, 22 guys.
Yeah.
So actually probably closer to 25. Because there's some guys who rotated in, rotated out. There's some guys who were here last summer, but not now. We had, but I don't think they're necessarily out of it. They're just not here because they're not going to make this team. But I'm sure next year, if they go and play professionally, they'll be right back and invited to try out for the team again. But for the national team, a lot of it's set up through the Olympic development program, and it's a lot of it is just it's visual, as you see if you're seen, and how you play against the top competition in the U.S. So while I went through the entire ODP program, Alex Ober did not. He got cut at the zone level. He made his debut in college, and everybody's like, where did this guy come from?
Wow.
And immediately gets 2013, he gets invited to try out for the national team, and does a really good job. And so Obert and I have been on the national team the longest, and we're the 2 oldest guys. So it's just the way it all is kind of like mapped out. So we both took just completely separate paths, but it comes down to like, okay, how well you're known for how long you're known, or how well you show up in college. Yeah. So that's really how it goes. But you use these paths to get places. Like Obert went to University of Pacific, and he had a couple other offers at some other places, but he saw that from what he told me, didn't really see, or was told that he wasn't really going to be able to get a lot of playing time. And really the only person who saw him actually play and saw him actually have a chance was James Graham at UOP. So he goes there and does really well.
Yep.
So
everyone's got their own journey for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But like with everybody else, it's, you have guys who when you're looking down the pipeline, it's like, oh, this guy's coming. He's going to be on the national team in 5 years. We just need to wait for him to get that age. And like that was like Ben Halleck.
Yeah. Let's talk about Paris.
Yeah.
So we've got the Olympics coming up, 2024.
Mhm.
This starts at the end of July,
Mhm.
and we're recording this early July. You guys are heading out there in a few days.
Yeah.
Right. So could you just give us a little bit of insight on what is the journey like when you're there training pre-Olympics
Oh yeah.
for the next few weeks? Like, what is camp like? What is your accommodations like? Interaction with other athletes. Could you just give us an idea of what that experience is going to be like?
Oh yeah. So we're going to 3 different countries before we go to France. We're going to Greece, Slovenia, and Croatia. Slovenia is just by ourselves, some connection that brought us there. And just to be isolated and kind of nail down a couple details for us. But we go to Greece and we're going to scrimmage with the Greece team and have a couple days to ourselves, but figure some things out. But Greece is in our bracket, so it's going to be a little bit hiding some things. They're going to hide some things from us.
Sure.
And we're just kind of, like get a little bit of run, but not a lot of, not going after each other, not showing our hands, you know? And it's the same thing with Croatia, because also they're in our bracket. So we're similar kind of hiding some things. They're going to hide some things, and we'll see where it leads. And then I think we'll be in France for a couple days before we need to be, and we'll have some scrimmages and some work with the French team as well.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And so you're going to be staying in the village once you get to France?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the village like? What do you expect the village in Paris to be like compared to what you experienced in Brazil and in Japan?
So I think hopefully it'll be more like Rio than it was Tokyo.
Yeah.
Tokyo, understandably, everybody was like, stay away from me. Like, not really. Like,
that was still a unique one.
Yeah, it was a unique situation, but you do still see some stars out in the village. A lot of the higher profile teams and athletes will stay outside of the village. The golfers, I know the surfers are on the other side of the world, so they're not obviously there. But like the gymnastics, you don't really see gymnastics around. You don't see basketball around at all because they're out in another hotel. But like we saw, they show up to the village for opening ceremony, because you start in the village and take the bus from the village to wherever their opening ceremonies is and that kind of stuff. So that's whenever we see the basketball team, it's there. Yeah. And then like golfers, tennis players, all the teams that have a lot of money.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
I think most of the swimmers stay in the village, but like the team sports, but from other countries, you see like we saw Luka Doncic a lot for the Slovenian team in Tokyo. He was trying to be as low key as possible, but it's like, it's kind of hard to be low key when you're 6'7", and like put up Slovenian stuff. It's like, that looks like Luka Doncic. But he was at least friendly with everybody. He took pictures with a lot of guys, and then he was like, Yao Ming was there because he was coaching the basketball team. Wow. And he was like, no pictures. No. Okay. So that was kind of weird. But you saw like the Gasol brothers were there. Pau and Marc Gasol were still playing for Spain in Tokyo, which was really cool. Yeah. But so you see like a lot of famous people, and it's, you get the big eyes and everything. It's a really cool experience because you learn about all the other sports and how you learn their stories and everything. Like I remember getting in a taxi with Ryan Krauser, who's a 2-time gold medalist with the shot put. So like I met him after Rio. I met him in Rio, and I don't know. I remember talking to him in Tokyo. I was like, "Hey, man, I remember we had a taxi ride together." He's like, "What? What do you like?" It's just like minor thing. It's like, "Oh no, I just remembered." Like, good luck. And he's going for his 3rd gold medal in the shot put. He's good. Mm-hmm. Like after I met him, I was like, "Oh, how good is he?" He's like, "Oh, he's really good." Yeah. Like that's been following him since, and it's just like but like I didn't really follow athletics before. Sure. Mm-hmm. And then you got like Valerie Allman, who I went to Stanford with. I was a senior when she was a freshman, and I met her for the first time in Tokyo. And
what sport is she?
She's discus.
Okay.
And she's insanely dominant too. Yeah. And it's just like you meet all these guys, and like the baseball was in the Tokyo Olympics, and their whole selection process is crazy because it's in the middle of this MLB season, so they're not taking all the MLB guys.
Yeah.
But they took some younger guys and some guys in the farm system and everything, and what was his name? But he the Twins pitcher who was like up for Rookie of the Year a couple 2 years ago was there, and he played water polo for Stanford.
No way.
Not for the Stanford club.
Got it. Yeah.
So he was really close with Dylan Woodhead, and he I remember seeing him. The Twins came to Petco. I think it was last year during his rookie year, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! He's pitching. Like, this is gonna be really cool." And like I felt bad because the Padres like actually had like a really good game against them. I was like, "Oh, like, I mean, I'm happy, but also like you did just like ruin your ERA in that game."
Man, well, what an amazing experience to get all the top athletes in the world from every different sport and discipline in one place. I can only imagine the energy and probably just the motivation to want to perform and represent the country that brings to you.
Oh yeah, and one of the cooler things is like there's a lot of respect between the athletes too, because it's like you're here, you deserve to be here, and so you talk to Kevin Durant. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's really great to meet you." It's like, "Yeah, it's great to meet you too."
That's cool.
Like they're not, they don't like. There's a lot of like fanboy moments, but they're also like they're very like. Yeah, you're still like really good at what you do.
Yeah,
you probably deserve you deserve similar stuff that we get, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's really really interesting, the dynamic in the village, and I hope that it's going to be more like Rio, because everybody's talking to everybody. But Tokyo was cool because we really kind of there's only certain people that you could interact with because you're in, like, and that's just everybody in the building.
Sure.
So you're only interacting with the American athletes,
crazy,
which is cool. Like I got to meet a lot of the American athletes, but it was also like, there's also like there's a lot more because everybody trades pins over there. Like I'll get a bag of like 50, 60 pins, and you just go and try and trade pins with other countries. So somebody like I don't do a really good job of it, but everybody like, oh, keep the pins in your bag, and just everybody has got the lanyard.
Yeah.
And you can see people with just like every country all the way around their lanyard.
Yeah. Man. Okay, so a little preview for Team USA in water polo. This podcast is going to come out right before the Olympics start, so I definitely want the impact to get people to want to follow the team.
Oh yeah.
Just as a big supporter of a water polo.
No, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, so we're in Group A.
Yes.
First game is going to be against Italy.
Yes.
On July 28th. Mm-hmm. We are then going to play Romania, Greece, Montenegro, and Croatia.
Yes.
So, what do you see? Where do we stack up right now, just ranking-wise in the world? And then could you describe your vision for how we will get to a gold medal from a more philosophical standpoint or tactical standpoint?
Well, so I believe we're better than what we're ranked, obviously, but we've had close games with the best teams in the world.
Where are we ranked?
I think we're ranked like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Just how it happened. We ended up taking 9th in the last World Championships, but we had some pretty big difficulties in the last 2 World Championships, and that knocked us out of the places that I believe that we deserve. Mm-hmm. But we've also had very close games with the best teams in the world. Like we had Spain here, and we won 1 out of the 2. We lost at 1 in a shootout. We won at 1 game, and then we lost the next game. So we're close with them, and they're undoubtedly in the top 3 right now. Mm-hmm. The teams that they've beaten and have beaten them, like you have Italy, who's also very talented. We lost to Italy in that last World Championships without one of our best players. We lost them by 1, and we had an amazing game without him, but we did need him. But it's one of those things. It's like, okay, without one of our best players, we lose to Italy by 1. We lost to Greece when we were in Japan for the World Championships before that. We lost to them by 1. So it's
anything can happen.
We're there with the top teams. We've lost to these teams by 1, or we've had really close games with them. And we've gotten better.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're not out of contention based on our ranking. Like we've had these close games. We need to take these steps to beat them. But
Basically what you're saying, the ranking is a little misleading and the top 10 teams are all very close.
We've had close games with all of them, and when we've played our best, we've had really close games with the best teams. And when we don't play our best, we have some trouble. But we're on the world stage, we're ready to go, and we're excited to play. And it's one of those things like we've made more sacrifices. We've done so much together that I believe we're ready to make that step, and we're ready to prove that in Tokyo. Or not, sorry, in Paris. Went back 4 years. But we're ready to prove that in Paris. We're a very solid, very talented, and now a lot more experienced team. That's the difference between now and Tokyo, is that we've earned a lot more experience.
And retained a lot of guys.
Retained a lot of guys, and all of those guys went and played abroad and played for high-level teams. You had Max Irving, who went to Brescia in Italy and was one of the top scorers in Champions League and was one of the top steal earners. Steelers? I don't know.
Something like that.
I don't know where you put that, but he was one of the top he was on the top 10 for steals. I think he was tied for first for steals and in the top 10 for goals. Incredible. You had Ben Halleck, who's playing for Pro Recco, who's Pro Recco for you listeners is basically the Yankees of water polo.
Right. In Italy, right?
In Italy, also in Italy. But also has won 3 Champions League titles with them and has been a huge piece for them because he's the best center in the world.
Sure. Wow.
You've had Hannes Dalby, who just won the Euro Cup with Hugh Dubrovnik, who also huge piece for that team. Amazing shooter. Like I can go down the list of all the guys we've played, we have that have incredible success playing abroad and are ready to and have brought that experience and that know-how and that success back to us, and we're ready to use that moving forward.
Amazing. So this is your third Olympics.
So my third Olympics.
What are you most excited about going into this one compared to your first Olympic experience in Rio and then the crazy 2020, 2021 experience in Tokyo? What are you most excited about now?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited about our chances. Most of all, I mean, I think this is the best team I've been a part of. We've had in Rio, we had a couple really good guys at the top, and we just didn't have a lot of experience at the bottom. So I think I think the younger guys couldn't do enough to help the older guys get where we needed to be. And in Tokyo, young squad, we had the youngest average age in Tokyo for a team. And that was with Jesse Smith, who was one of the top 3 oldest guys, or top five, I guess, oldest guys that were in that competition. Yeah. So with that outlier, we were still the youngest team, which is insane. Like you don't really want to be the youngest team, but we ended up taking 6th in that there, and we won against Japan in Japan on our first game, which is tough. And then we won against South Africa, which we should have done to make it to the next round. And then we lose to Spain by 4, which was coincidentally the closest quarterfinal game out of anybody. But that loss by 4 was really, we were down 2, and then we go like super high press, and they score 2 buckets at the end of the game to make it look a little bit further than what it was. And then we beat Italy in the 5-8 semi, and then lose to Croatia in the 5th place game. But we had our chances, and we did really well. We had some good games. We just we didn't have the experience back then to finish those games and take wins away. And I believe we do now. Man.
Well, I'm excited, man. We're all excited to watch. So we're gonna definitely get some watch parties going and follow you guys.
I mean, I'm super excited. The amount of support that we've had in the last couple weeks, and everybody coming out and wishing us luck. We had a couple events with USA Water Polo we had one in Long Beach, and we had one in Atherton,
Mhm.
up north. So we met with a lot of people who are really pulling for us and really helping us out to get to that next level. And
Mhm.
the amount of support from even at the games too. I mean, I've had a blast, and I feel like it's one of my duties is to sign everything that I could possibly sign for every kid, and
That's awesome.
it's because I was in that position. I remember when the U.S. had a game. I think it was like 2003. They had a game with Serbia Montenegro at Kogan in La Jolla.
Yep.
The La Jolla high school pool, and like I remember being there, and I remember like getting autographs from everybody on the team, and it's like that's a core memory of mine that I want to give to that next generation. Like I want them to have something similar to look up to and to try and emulate. And I feel like somebody that I signed an autograph for is going to be clapping for me for my retirement game, or is going to be when I come back after. Like we had we recognized the 1984 team at Mount Sac when we played Spain, and like there's going to be somebody who I signed an autograph for that's going to be on the team there to when we're recognized when we get a medal.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing to think about. Is you can impact some kid in a way that will be a future Olympian, and he'll never forget that moment. That will be a moment of inspiration for him to.
I mean, it's the hope,
Olympics.
It's the hope. It's never like I don't want to feel as I don't want to come off as arrogant in the way that I'm saying this at all. It's just I want them to have that same experience or a better experience to take forward.
Well, you had it.
Yeah.
So it's real.
Yeah, exactly. And like I feel like I know the importance of it.
Yeah.
Because I was there, and I want I just wanted to make sure that every interaction that I have with the kids growing up, with kids getting autographs, it's like I try and like, hey, how's it going? I'm Alex.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet you. What's your name? Shake their hand, sign the ball. It's like, yeah. I've try and answer quite like whenever there's like high school kids that'll message me on Instagram asking questions about water polo, and I try and give them the best answer that I can possibly get.
That's awesome.
And it's all little tips and tricks, and a lot of it's like, how do I shoot better? It's like, well, you got to work on your legs, work on your core, work on this. It's like it's such a broad question that I could break it down in 20 different ways. And it's like, and then I get more specific ones. It's like, when I do this happens. It's like, well, I think that's probably because you do it this way. You could try and do it a little bit differently, and try and do it this way to try and it's hard to sometimes answer those questions over text, but like I try and I might be a little bit late on it, and somebody might ask me a question a month ago, and I look at my DMs like, oh shit, I'm like give you an answer. But no, I try and get back to them and try and help them out. Like I feel like I have a wealth of knowledge, wealth of very specific knowledge.
Yep. And
I try to help out as much as I can.
Man, well, it sounds like you're doing everything right. I love that you're.
Hope.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, just being in the position of influence that you're in, you've made it to the top at this sport, and you're now at the point where you are one of the most impactful players in the world, and it's like to be able to give back in that way, even before you're done with your actual career, is very admirable. So, I mean, I'm sure the community, the water polo community, which is near and dear to my heart, and yours too, of course, certainly appreciates that.
Oh yeah, no, and water and USA Water Polo is trending in the right direction. I like it's grown tremendously since I've been since I've started, and the development has gotten so much better. I think it's good.
Yeah, well, music to my ears, man. We love to see the sport grow, and the U.S. is doing the right thing with the sport, and people like you are the leaders of why it's going that direction. So, man, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure over the years to watch your career, watch how far you've come from the days when we shared the pool at Stanford. We played against each other, and I've moved on from water polo in my life, but to see you still have this impact in the game on the world
Oh,
stage.
and look, I appreciate you giving. Like, I feel like this is a good way to give back to the community as well, and using your platform to spread the good word. You know,
Yeah.
like it's no, it's one of the things that I love about the water polo community is that we're all close, tight knit, and
Yeah.
it's we try and do the best for the sport that really raised us as people.
Yeah.
You know, and you get a lot of character, a lot of hair on your chest, a lot of like for playing water polo. It's a tough sport. You got to be incredibly physically fit. You've got to be able to you have to be able to fight with somebody and swim with them and wrestle. You got to be able to swim and wrestle and shoot the ball really hard, all within seconds of each other.
Yep.
It's a very complicated, complex sport, but it's also a very simple and beautiful sport. There's a dichotomy to it that's beautiful.
Yeah.
There's so many different metaphors that I've used to describe it, that it's like you always have to be like a duck where your legs are moving underwater, you're moving at 100 miles per hour, but above the water you got to look calm.
That's right.
It's there's a beauty and a brutality to it that are that makes it interesting, and it makes it fun, and it makes it a unique sport among whatever else is out there.
Yeah, well said, man. How can people follow you, find you online, and see what you're up to in your career?
Oh yeah, my Instagram is abrickbowen. I try and post that as much as I can, and I'll be posting as much. I'll be posting a lot when I get to when we're in this next phase going into the Olympics, and trying to post as much as I can during the Olympics as well, and just try and give people a good look of how the village is and everything. We're really excited, super excited for Paris. The village is going to be amazing. I've seen the pool. The pool is going to be awesome. Well, for the first part, I haven't seen from what I think the pool in La Défense is built now, but for the first round, the pool that's in Saint Denis, I was just finished my contract in Paris. We had our Final Four there, and it was loud. It was great.
Nice.
Like the crowd was amazing. The women played France on Monday, and then we had our semis on Tuesday and our finals on Wednesday, and it was a great atmosphere. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to having a crowd back in the pool for the Olympics. You know,
man, dude. Well, we're excited for it, man, and let's go. Let's get after it. Best of luck to you, dude. We're going to be following closely, and it's so cool that we've reconnected over the years. And you know, we got the Olympics, and you got a wedding coming up after.
Yes, I do. I get to marry my lovely fiance, Hillary, on August 31st, and back here in Coronado. We're really excited about it, and got all of that on like that part's put away, and now it's Olympics, and then finish that when I get back home. But it's no, I'm super excited to get married. She's my biggest supporter, and she's made so many sacrifices for me and my career, and I couldn't be happier to be marrying the best person that I know.
Amazing. Well, I'm so stoked for you, man. These next couple months in your life are going to be unforgettable.
Oh yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Alex.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Nichols and Dimes Show. Please hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow my Instagram page at Nichols and Dimes. The podcast Instagram page is at Nichols and Dimes Show. And please like any of the videos you come across on either platform and leave a comment, leave feedback. It helps me to improve and innovate and to continue to scale and bring more interesting guests to the Nichols and Dimes Show. Thank you all for the support, and we'll see you next time.